I never expected my sister's wedding day would become the moment my entire life changed. At least not in front of 100 people wearing suits, high heels, and fake smiles. My name is Elisa Warren. I'm 34, a single mom, and for the past 6 years, I've worked quietly as a court clerk in Oregon. Not glamorous, I know, but it's steady, it pays the bills, and it gave me just enough space to raise my daughter Lily after her father walked out when I was 5 months pregnant. He didn't even leave a note, just gone. Since then, my life has been a quiet fight. Every morning started before sunrise packing Lily's lunch, making coffee that always went cold, and trying to hold everything together while everyone around me moved forward with their lives. My family? They pitied me. Or worse, they ignored me altogether. Brooke, my younger sister, was the golden one. She always had the spotlight, the praise, the freedom. Our mother, Diane, adored her, called her my sweet girl even in adulthood. My father, Thomas, had long since stopped speaking up for me. I think he got tired of trying. I never told them that after work I spent late nights studying for the bar exam. That while Lily slept on the couch beside me, I read case law and outlined strategies. I didn't tell them when I passed. I didn't even tell them when I got my judicial appointment. Not out of spite, just because, after years of being treated like the family's shadow, I stopped expecting applause. So when I received Brooke's wedding invitation with my name misspelled and Lily listed as one instead of my daughter, I wasn't surprised. But I still went. Not for them, but for me. And for Lily. I wanted her to see that we still show up. That being overlooked doesn't mean we disappear. I didn't expect the cruelty that would follow. And I definitely didn't expect that the person who would speak the truth about me that day would be Brooke's groom. But let's go back just a few hours before the toast that changed everything. The wedding invitation came in a thick white envelope with gold trim, elegant, expensive, just like everything Brooke touched. I remember holding it over the sink, half expecting it to be a mistake. But there it was in curling script, Ms. Elisa Warden and guest. They couldn't even get my name right, and they didn't bother to list Lily by name. I stared at the RSVP card for a long time. I didn't know what hurt more, the careless spelling, or the fact that even now, my daughter was an afterthought. Still, I checked accepts with pleasure, because I wasn't going to let their indifference write my story. In the days leading up to the wedding, I didn't hear from anyone in the family, no calls, no messages, nothing. But I saw the posts on Facebook, on Instagram, rehearsal dinners, brunches, spa days, Brooke in white, Diane beaming, my father smiling like none of it was ever broken. We weren't invited to any of that, just the ceremony and reception. It was clear where we stood. Lily asked me, "Mom, why didn't they invite us to the fancy dinner?" I told her the truth. Sometimes people forget what matters. She looked confused but didn't ask again. The day of the wedding arrived gray and wet. Oregon rain, soft and steady. I dressed Lily in her favorite lavender dress and pulled on the one decent black dress I owned. We arrived early, because Lily likes to find the bathroom before things start. Inside the Pacific Heights Country Club, everything sparkled. Crystal centerpieces, white roses, and people air kissing with champagne in hand. I spotted my mother near the front, holding court with her friends like a queen at a garden party. When she saw me, her smile faltered. "Oh, Elisa, you made it," she said, blinking like she hadn't expected me to show. She looked at Lily briefly and added, "She's gotten tall." That was it. No hug, no warmth. I asked where we were seated, and a young usher pointed toward the far corner of the ballroom. "Table 19, he said, with a tight smile. I looked at the chart. It was next to the kitchen. Not a single other family member seated with us. We walked over and sat down. The tablecloth had a stain. The chair wobbled. I saw Brooke and Adam posing for pictures near the floral arch, glowing under the soft lights. And all I could think was I shouldn't be surprised. I've lived in this shadow long enough to know exactly where they think I belong. Still, I kept my chin up. For Lily, for myself. But as I sat there, something inside me shifted. I didn't come here for them. I came to witness something. I just didn't know yet it was going to be my own turning point. The ceremony started right on time. Brooke walked down the aisle in a designer gown that shimmered like champagne under the lights. Gasps followed her every step, and I won't lie, she looked stunning. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, the whole fairy tale image. Adam, her groom, stood at the altar with a soft, proud smile. He looked calm, grounded. I'd only met him once before, briefly at a family dinner I wasn't really part of. He seemed polite but distant, the kind of man who watched more than he spoke. The vows were personal, of course. Brooke went first, her voice trembling for dramatic effect. She talked about growth and loyalty, about how Adam helped her become the best version of herself. People dabbed at their eyes. Diane beamed. Adam's vows were quiet, sincere. Nothing flashy, just a steady voice promising to show up every day, even when it was hard. I remember thinking, he sounds different from the rest of them, like he actually means what he says. After the ceremony, everyone spilled into the reception hall. Music played, drinks flowed, and waiters circled with plates of tiny food that looked like art projects. I stayed at our little corner table with Lily, making sure she had enough to eat and trying not to draw attention. But then came the toasts. The best man went first, funny, lighthearted, full of inside jokes I didn't get. The maid of honor followed with a teary-eyed tribute to Brooke, the most radiant soul I've ever known. People clapped, whistled. Then Diane stood up. Her voice cut through the music like a bell. I just want to say a few words, she began, clutching her champagne glass with her signature grace. I'm so proud of the woman Brooke has become. She's elegant, accomplished, and everything a mother could hope for. She paused, smiling at the crowd. It hasn't always been easy. Watching one daughter struggle while the other soared, it's not something you plan for. I froze. People laughed politely, unsure if it was a joke. She continued. But sometimes life gives us examples. One child becomes a cautionary tale, and the other, an inspiration. A chill ran down my spine. I couldn't breathe. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew who she meant. I felt the stares, the whispers. Even Lily looked up at me with wide, uncertain eyes. I should have left. I should have stood up and walked out. But I didn't want to make a scene, not in front of my daughter. Diane raised her glass, to Brooke, who always knew where she was going. Glasses clinked. Laughter rose. The moment passed for everyone else, but for me, it burned into my skin. I stared down at my plate, my hands trembling. I didn't cry. Not there. Not in that room full of people who never really saw me. I reached for Lily's hand under the table. She squeezed it and whispered, "You're not a caution thing, Mom. You're the strongest person I know." I bit the inside of my cheek to keep the tears down. And then, just when I thought it was over, the MC announced, "And now, the groom would like to say a few words." Adam stepped up to the microphone, glass in hand. He looked calm, but his eyes were serious. "I hadn't planned to speak again tonight," he began, "but after that last toast, I think something needs to be said." The room quieted. And in that silence, everything shifted. What Adam said next changed everything. Adam stood tall at the front of the room, one hand in his pocket, the other loosely holding a glass of champagne. The crowd expected charm, maybe a romantic nod to his bride. What they got was something entirely different. "I want to thank all of you for being here," he began. "This day means more to us than we can express. And I've heard a lot of beautiful things tonight, funny stories, heartfelt memories, deep wishes for our future." He paused, his eyes scanning the room. But there was one toast that didn't sit right with me. A ripple of surprise moved across the room. Diane shifted uncomfortably. Brooke's smile flickered. Adam continued, voice steady. "I've had the chance to meet most of this family over the last couple of years. Some welcomed me warmly, others kept a distance. And that's fine. Every family has its quirks." He turned slightly, facing my table across the room. "But there's one person in this room I think deserves a moment. Someone who wasn't mentioned in the speeches. Someone I've come to admire deeply." I felt the air leave my lungs. "Before I proposed to Brooke, I did my homework," he said, drawing quiet laughter. "And in that process, I learned a lot more than anyone realized. I learned about her childhood. I learned about her sister." He looked directly at me. "Elisa Warren." Whispers grew louder. I could feel eyes turning, faces shifting toward us. Most of you probably don't know much about her story, maybe because it wasn't convenient to tell. But let me share a few things. Elisa is a single mother who raised an incredible daughter on her own. She worked full-time while taking night classes. She graduated with honors. And recently, just a few weeks ago, she was appointed as a judge for the state of Oregon. Gasps echoed across the room. Brooke's mouth fell slightly open. Diane looked as though she'd swallowed a lemon. Adam didn't stop. She did all this without the support many of us take for granted. No cheering section. No handouts. Just grit, grace, and determination. He took a breath. And what struck me the most was how she still showed up today, sat quietly at a table near the kitchen, and didn't say a word even after being insulted in front of everyone. Now the room was dead silent. Adam raised his glass. So tonight, before we continue celebrating, I want to raise a toast not just to love and new beginnings but to the quiet strength we overlook too often, to Elisa, and to every woman who rises, even when the world tells her she doesn't belong. He looked at me, and this time, everyone followed. People rose slowly, one by one, glasses lifted. To Elisa, voices echoed. I sat frozen, Lily clinging to my arm, eyes wide with pride. I didn't know what to do. I had never been seen like that, not by my own family, and certainly not in a room full of strangers. I nodded, blinking back tears, mouthing thank you toward Adam. He gave a small, respectful nod back. Brooke stood beside him, motionless. Her face was unreadable. Diane looked like she wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in years: dignity. Not borrowed, not begged for, but earned. Seen not through blood ties or polite lies, but for the truth I carried. It wasn't just a toast, it was a reckoning. And everything started to change after that. After Adam's toast, the reception didn't end immediately, but the air shifted. You could feel it in the way people moved, how they looked at each other with forced smiles and uncertain glances. Conversations dulled. The string quartet played on, but nobody was really listening. I stayed at the table with Lily, letting her finish her cake, trying to stay present. She leaned into me, her little hand wrapped around my wrist, as if to say, "You're safe now." Diane didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. She stayed near the bar, whispering furiously to a few relatives. I saw Brooke disappear into a side hallway shortly after Adam's speech, her train dragging behind her like a storm cloud. No one asked us to leave. In fact, a few cousins I hadn't spoken to in years came by quietly to say hello. One of them, a woman named Claire I hadn't seen since we were kids, hugged me tightly and whispered, "I always knew they treated you unfairly. I'm so sorry." I didn't need apologies, I just wanted peace. Eventually, Lily and I slipped out the side door. The cool air hit our faces like a blessing. As we walked toward the car, I heard footsteps behind us. It was Adam. He didn't say much, just a gentle, "Thank you for being here." I nodded. "You didn't have to do that." He looked me straight in the eye. "Yes, I did." I don't know what happened between him and Brooke after that night. I didn't ask. A few months later, someone mentioned that the marriage didn't last long. No details. Just that it quietly fell apart. As for Diane, she never reached out again. And honestly, I didn't expect her to. I think some people get so comfortable with their version of the truth that anything real feels like betrayal. But something beautiful did come from that night, more than justice or validation. It was the shift inside me. A door opened, quietly, firmly. I stopped waiting for their approval. I stopped shrinking to make others feel taller. I focused on Lily. On our little home. On the life I was building. A quiet life, but one rooted in honesty and strength. The truth is, I didn't need a wedding toast to define me, but I'll never forget the moment someone finally saw the full picture and spoke it out loud. Sometimes, that's all it takes. One moment of truth and a lifetime of silence is broken. It's been 3 years since that wedding. 3 years since a single moment pulled back the curtain on everything I'd silently endured for most of my life. People often ask me if I'm bitter. If I wish I'd said something that night. If I regret staying quiet for so long. And the truth is, no, I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm free. Because that night wasn't just about Brooke's wedding. It wasn't even about Adam's toast, as powerful and kind as it was. It was about a lifetime of being silenced and the decision to finally stop carrying shame that was never mine. When I look back, I realize I spent years trying to prove I was worthy of love and respect from people who were never willing to give it. I thought if I achieved enough, gave enough, stayed quiet enough, one day they'd see me. One day I'd be invited to the main table, not just at a wedding, but in their hearts. But healing doesn't come from being seen by others. It comes from seeing yourself fully, honestly, without apology. And that's what I want to leave you with. To anyone watching this who's ever been treated like an afterthought, who's ever been overlooked, belittled, or made to feel like your value depends on how useful you are to others, I see you. I've been you. And I want you to know something no one ever told me: you don't need their approval to matter. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to make yourself smaller to protect other people's comfort. You don't owe anyone access to your peace just because you share a last name. Family isn't about blood. It's about truth, about care, about the people who choose you, not just the ones who claim you. And sometimes the most powerful kind of revenge isn't loud or dramatic. It's living well. It's refusing to let the hurt define you. It's raising your child with more love than you were ever given. It's walking away from the table where love is conditional and building your own. I still live in the same little house with the cracked driveway and mismatched garden chairs, but it's ours. It's full of laughter, books, dreams, and a kind of quiet joy that no one can take away. Lily is growing up knowing that her voice matters, that no one gets to shame her into silence. And I finally understand that I was never broken, just buried under years of other people's expectations. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this: you are not what they call you in their cruelest moments. You are not defined by the seat they give you or don't give you at their table. You are who you choose to become when you stop waiting for their applause and start building your own foundation. And that foundation can be beautiful, solid, and unshakable even if you start from scratch. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched something in you, if you saw even a part of your own journey in mine, I invite you to like, share, or comment. Not for the algorithm, but because maybe someone else out there needs a reminder, too. You are not invisible. You never were. Sometimes it just takes one moment of truth for everything to finally fall into place.